Good evening, everyone,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
and welcome to our final session, Forever Changed, A Time for Healing. Where do we begin? This session will be recorded. Introducing tonight's moderator, Ms. Sharon Houston.
So hello, everyone. I apologize that I'm having technical problem on my end. However, the main guest is here, available and visible to you all. So please excuse me as the faceless. I have a mask on. The faceless moderator. I'm excited. Want to thank NSU planning team and Ms. Tara Alexander for pulling this awesome event together over the last 5 weeks. We have discussed mental health issues. We talked about COVID-19 and ways that we can protect ourselves as we journey through this pandemic. We have engaged in policing and interaction, racism, and voting. And with all the problems, issues, concerns that have been placed before us tonight, the question will be raised, how do we move forward in these unprecedented times, and where do we begin? I have with me two NSU students, one in the bachelor's undergraduate program and one in the graduate program, along with two community leaders that will help us in this conversation of picking up the pieces and healing our community. So I would like them to just take a moment to introduce themselves to you all. So we'll start with Dana, and then we'll go to Angela, then Elijah, and then Kirk.
Yes, good evening. My name is Dana Lamb. I'm a student at Norfolk State University, undergraduate student in the sociology department.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Councilwoman Angela Williams-Graves, and I have had the privilege of serving on the Norfolk City Council for the last 10 years. I am an ODU graduate, but I spent quite a bit of time with Norfolk State, and so I have my green and gold. And I'm excited to be here this evening and very intrigued by the topic that we're going to discuss. So I look forward to a great discussion and hopefully to leave you all with something that will be helpful and motivational to you moving forward.
Hey everybody, my name is Elijah Graves. I am currently a senior electrical engineer and I am in the DNEMIS program, and I'm excited for the conversation tonight as well.
All right, good evening everyone. I am Kirk Houston Jr., also known at the church and somewhat at the school as Pastor KT. I serve as youth and young adult pastor here at Gethsemane Community Fellowship, as well as the spiritual advisor for Christian Student Fellowship. Elijah didn't mention he's the president of Christian Student Fellowship as well at Norfolk State. I'm a graduate of Norfolk State University, class of 2006, psychology major. And so always excited to be able to give back to my school in various ways, and glad to be here.
We're so glad that you all have consented to sharing with us and helping us to move forward in the time of this pandemic. So, of course, African American communities are no strangers to life problems. Due to discrimination practices, we are impacted by health access and utilization, economic and educational gaps, and housing challenges. Yet, we have been able to always thrive and move forward. In the beauty of our pure Blackness, we have been able to move in darkness of life of life curves. One of the things our former president, Barack Obama, said is change will not come if we wait for some other person or other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Dana, I will begin with you. Tell us what brought you to our beautiful campus of NSU.
What brought me back to NSU is wanting to finish something that I started. I started at Hampton Institute at the age of 18, and I was out of school for 30 years. And once I saw my mother graduate from Norfolk State University at the age of 65, and then my son graduate, gave me the courage and strength to know that I could finish what I started as well.
Absolutely. That's a powerful story when we talk about how do we move forward, a 30 years gap, and then to think about still doing it after we see examples. So I think that's one thing that we can remember is who are our examples that could keep us moving forward. What person have done it in the time of trouble, in the time of pain, in the time of discouragement. And so Dana, it was awesome that the fact that you have a mother and a son who gave you energy to move forward in it. But yet, Dana, when you came back to the campus, you still face many health challenges. Talk to us about the health challenges that you faced.
While being an undergrad as well as being a graduate student now, I suffer with kidney failure, where I'm on dialysis, which I've been on for 14 years. I suffer with lung disease as well as heart failure. And while attending Norfolk State, I would like to thank the professors as well as the OASIS department for all the support that they have given me while my 8 years at Norfolk State University. It has been a struggle, but every day I wake up, I thank God and take one foot and put the other foot forward and keep on striving to the finish line.
Yeah, one of the things we want to talk about is what is available on campus. So I'm glad you mentioned those, the OASIS, which helped with anyone with disability or any challenges that they need support in. And then our good old professors is always important. So I want to come back to you all, to talk more about that, Dana. Elijah Graves.
Yes.
Again, thank you. I think you came traditional route, so you look pretty young. And I know you're not 40. I think Dana came back in her 40s. So you came through to NSU. What brought you to NSU?
Well, what brought me to NSU was that it was close to home, and I made a promise to myself, like I wasn't going to pay for college, and that's been the goal since. And I'm not.
Oh, wow.
With no student loans. No doubt.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like you're a scholarship student. Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So can you describe how you felt in light of the pandemic changes to your educational experience and some of the civil unrest when we think about what's going on with George Floyd?
Are you talking to me directly?
Yes, Elijah.
Okay, cool. So initially
Do you
when
want me to repeat it?
No, I understand the question. Initially when COVID-19 hit, I didn't believe it. I was like, it's gonna blow off in 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it's cool. We're gonna be back to school after spring break, like within a week or two. And then next thing I know, everything's shutting down. We gotta wear masks. Nobody's going out, and it's like the whole world was in fear. I was like, oh, this is like a real situation that's going on in the world right now. And I guess initially it was a sense of denial, but after that it was like, well, it's either time to adjust or you're gonna sink. And I just made a decision to adjust. The educational experience, I didn't like it at first because I'm not used to like learning virtually. I can learn like independently reading a book, but looking at a screen and having the teacher try to, I guess, educate me doing a screen using a software that they don't really know how to use. It was a little difficult at first, but then, you know, I got adjusted to it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I love the two words you use, adjust or sync. We're going to either do one or the other, and you made a choice to adjust, and you're adjusting. I'm sure, you know, you are adjusting. I know that Miss Lamb is, only thing she having to do now is do her internship program. And so she's not on campus in classroom, but she's just doing the internship program. So Kirk Jr., please talk to us about change, the difficulty of changing, and how would you share with the audience about how to remain hopeful amidst the COVID-19 and the civil unrest? Give us a short dissertation on how you would help them to remain hopeful in this time, because all of us are different. All of our experiences are different. There's no one side made for all. And so it's so important that individually we find that hope. So what would you share with us?
Yeah. So as I go through this time with all of you all, this pandemic and many other issues that kind of are before us, it's easy to just focus on just the problems that's before us, especially when what we desire, the normalcy or the solutions, the resolve to the various issues, when they are uncertain, they're variables. It is really hard to look beyond, again, the problems. And so for me, just by definition, hope is maintaining a mindset that looks beyond the present and focuses on the possibility of tomorrow. And so just to, I guess, run that back, so for those who may be taking note, I don't know. Hope is maintaining a mindset that looks beyond the present.
Kirk, you kind of paused for a moment. For some reason, you dropped a little bit after you said hope. So would you give us just a little segment back in?
Sure. Can you all hear me good now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So again, hope is maintaining a mindset that looks beyond the present and focuses on the possibility of tomorrow. And so we just have to internally envision the good, right? And what we desire to be different. And particularly for those things that we can control. Some stuff we can't control. I don't think anybody in here is making the vaccine for COVID-19. And so those things that we can control, you know, we set our minds on those things and, you know, and try to just lock in there and pursue those things as much as possible and know that things will work out for us. I'll share this one thing and I'll save a little bit for, I guess, later if a question comes back around. But I mentioned hope being a mindset. And as a pastor, particularly of a Christian church, one of the things that we encourage of members, and whatever your faith background may be, and a lot of faith or religions, these practices are normal, and that is prayer, meditation, and worship. And so hope emerges out of our prayer, our meditation, and our worship. And so I like to put it in these kind of terms. Think of the promise, not the pain. Think of the benefits, not the burden. Think of opportunities and not opposition. And so that's how we maintain our hope, is by focusing in our mindset through prayer, meditation, and worship, and always remembering the promises of God, or the benefits of this situation, and the opportunities that we have in spite of the opposition. There are some opportunities to make a difference or to enhance our life, or even help somebody else in their journey through this situation. So keep looking beyond to the possibilities of the future.
Yes, thank you. And I'll say to the audience, if you have particular questions that you want to add to the chat, As we go through this, I'm looking at your question. I will definitely share it with our panel guests. So please go ahead and start submitting any questions, any thoughts relevant to the topic that you think our panelists can support you in. Please, by all means, do that as we move forward. Again, Pastor Kirk, we thank you for focusing us on the future and on those positive thoughts about our promises. There are some definitely benefits in this experience. We have to look for them oftentimes, but there are many benefits and opportunities that we've learned that we wouldn't have learned if we had not experienced COVID-19. I know I live with seniors. My mother is down visiting, and certainly she has learned Zoom, and she's taking it back to her senior group. She'll go back to Florida in next month, and she's already learned how to use Zoom, and she's ready to take it back and teach it to her senior group. So there are always opportunities. So thank you for at least giving us those tidbits. But in crisis, if you watch the presidential debate the other night, and I heard a lot of people saying, you know, they needed a break, they needed a commercial break, and nobody asked for commercial breaks, but many people were saying they really needed a commercial break in that. Talk to us, Pastor Houston, about getting peace in the midst of this, because anxiety on the fly, and we talked about earlier that we open up with mental health issues, and people are in anxiety mode, frustrated. Can you share just a little bit about how do individuals seek peace during this time? Your mic is off. We can't hear you still. I can come back to you with that question. I don't know what's going on, but I come back to you. Miss Graves, Angela.
Yes.
Again, thank you so much. I see your microphone is off, so you can go ahead and start turning it on, Angela.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now, yes.
All
So
right,
thank you so much for your commitment. I know you were on last week with concerning voting. So whenever we face crisis, there's always need for involvement in the change process. We have some amazing students here at Norfolk State University with all types of skills and abilities. And so share with us, how can students participate with the city of Norfolk? Maybe share a little bit of your story of how you got involved in leadership.
Well, thank you again for having me, Ms. Houston. I really do appreciate the opportunity to share with the students who are listening. I would say, I just want to say I love Pastor KT's points. I was actually writing them down because I'm going to use those. You're going to see those again on Facebook. I'll give you credit for them, but you'll see them again. To talk about student involvement and a little bit of my story, I was raised in a family that was faith and political in terms of my dad was a pastor, and so I'm a PK also, and I was raised in church, and in church we had voter registration, and we drove people to the polls, and my dad was very active with making sure that our membership knew who was running, who were our friends, and who he felt like would serve our best interests, but also making sure that folks just simply knew that there was an election and that you needed to pay attention to candidates and to vote. And so that was my background in getting involved in politics and becoming aware. I want to say to you, my very first, not my very first, but what really, really, really got my attention with regard to a lot of the unjust murders of young people, for me, a pivotal moment was Trayvon Martin's death. And that wasn't a young man who died at the hands of the police. That was a young man that died at the hands of some overzealous person who was just walking home with candy and iced tea. And I still, for the life of me, don't understand how somebody in a car can feel intimidated by somebody walking. I don't get that. And I don't get how, that individual was not prosecuted and not found guilty. And so what I would say to young people in terms of getting involved is starting at the local level and paying attention to what is going on with your elected officials, and paying attention to council meetings that are televised and that are live, that they can see or go back and replay. And not just taking your news from social media, not just taking, the opinions of groups of people from social media, but actually doing some of that research for yourself, and then voting. Voting is so very important. And a lot of you, some of you may be here, some of you may be at home, just because COVID's kind of got everybody all over the place. So wherever it is that you are, if you have to absentee ballot vote, call or go online to the registrar where you are registered and get your absentee ballot sent to you and fill it out. Put the stamp on it. I know it's old fashioned, but put the stamp on it and put it in the mailbox. You cannot vote by Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And then if you are registered locally to vote, if you changed your residence and you're registered locally to vote, go and vote. It is super, super, super important that we have young people to participate in this election, because what's happening now is going to affect it's going to affect me. I'm 48 years old. It will affect me because I plan to live at least another 48 years. But if you're 28 and if you're 18, the things that are happening now, especially like with the Supreme Court nominations and the justices that are being placed on the bench by the current POTUS, those things are going to affect your lives much more than they will affect my life, simply because you have more life to live than I do. And you're going to be saddled with the responsibility of undoing some of the things that have been done. So I would admonish young people to vote, to pay attention to what is going on in their communities, in the surrounding communities around them, to pay attention to what is going on with the city council elections. We have state elections. Virginia has an election every year. Somebody is running for something every year. And so there's also the opportunity for you to get involved in whatever party it is that you feel like you are drawn to. And so there's room for good people on both sides. And we need to have good, not to sound like the POTUS, but we need to have good people on both sides, because we need to have people who are Democrat and Republican who will do the right thing for the people. So whatever party you feel drawn to, get involved with that local party, get involved on your campus, make sure that your friends are registered to vote, and make sure that you vote. But it is super, super, super important, because what plays out over the course of the next 4 years and what has happened over the course of the last 3 years will definitely be impactful to the rest of your lives, again, more so than mine. It will impact mine, but it will definitely be more impactful to the rest of your lives.
So Elijah, you're on campus, and I hear our councilwoman talking about voting and the idea that your generation is going to really experience the impact of what happens today. What's the temperature on campus? Are students talking about voting? Are they talking about things that are going on? Are they talking about getting involved in government? What's the temperature on campus in your dorm?
I personally haven't heard too much information regarding like voting and the election. I don't know how many people are actually interested in this election. Yeah, that's really all the information I have for you. I know there are individuals on campus that are asking the students, "Are you registered to vote?" and X, Y, and Z. And I feel like a lot of people say yes because I believe that they are. But outside of that, I have no knowledge.
So where do we begin? So here's another, if any students out there are listening in or our professors, here's where we begin. We certainly, as Councilwoman said, that the ball is resting in the hands of those young people out there to make a change, to make a difference. And it's going to be so valuable that they do. And so Elijah, I'm gonna bounce the ball to you. You can't see me because but I used to play volleyball. So I'm serving that ball to you to rally up the crowd in your dorm while we're waiting on change. As Barack Obama said, we have to be the change. And so I'm asking you and anyone else who's out there in this age bracket to, these are some of the things that you can do to get involved and to make a difference. Kirk Houston, did you want to jump in and say anything in reference to that? I know you just recently got involved with city government. You're still not on for some reason.
It's muzzled.
I can't hear you at all. Is there a way you can change, come back into another computer system?
Is there something over your microphone? Because it sounds like you're muzzled. Papers or something maybe? Okay.
We're gonna let him transition into another computer system. And Angela, I'll go back to you, Angela. What have the city done to help with the healing process? Is there any programs, services, opportunities that you can direct the audience to that could empower them or give them more information or clarity on what the city is doing to help?
Well, I will always refer everybody to our Norfolk.gov website to be able to find out what is going on in the city. In the notes section, I did post in the elections website, which is norfolk.gov/elections, so that you can see where early voting, which is taking place now, they can definitely vote, and then where we will have in-person voting at 4 locations in the city. People can see that information as well. But you know, in terms of healing, it's very interesting that you asked that question, because when you sent that, I thought about it and I looked and I was like, wow, we really don't have a lot going on. And so, as you said, be the change you want to see in the world. So I started working on a mental health break for the city to have virtually online about an hour and a half on the 22nd of October that we will host, and it'll be live streamed on Facebook. And the first part of it will be with some mental health experts to help to address some of the common problems that they are seeing and discussing with individuals, because it's very heavy. I mean, this 6 or 7 month period of time since March 12th is like the bottom fell out of the world, at least here in Virginia. And everything started shutting down, and things were closing, and I was actually at a conference, and normally it's busy. I go to this conference every year, and it's busy, and one conference is leaving and somebody else is coming in, and it's busy. And the night before I left, I had dinner with a friend of mine, and we were down in the lobby, and it was like a ghost town in there. And then the very next day was when everything just started to, all shut down. And then there was the George Floyd situation and the Ahmaud Arbery situation. And I mean, it's like the whole weight of the world just fell on us. And I think I used this scenario in some Zoom thing that I was on, but I heard a gentleman say all of these things that were happening to him. And, they say the Lord doesn't give you more than you could bear. And I wish the Lord didn't trust me so much. And so sometimes you just feel like, Lord, really? And so the event on the 22nd that your question actually inspired, Ms. Houston, is to just take a mental health break. So we're going to give individuals information about how to cope, because I think in the Black community, we struggle with not getting the proper help mentally that we need in terms of counseling and learning actual coping skills. So we're going to have a couple of therapists that are going to talk to us. We're also going to have help from the Community Services Board, information from the Community Services Board. But then we're going to take about maybe 30 or 40 minutes, and we're just going to laugh. We're just going to take a pause from life. We're going to take a life break, and we're booking 2 or 3 comedians that will provide clean comedy and that will just help us to unplug from everything that's going on in our lives for 30 or 40 minutes and get that laughter that we all know is good for the soul. And ironically, your husband has committed to, at the very end, give us a 3-minute piece of inspiration and hope and pray for us. So we're going to get mental health help. We're going to laugh a little bit, and then we're going to get our Jesus in, as I like to say. We're going to get our hope in. And so in order to give folks an opportunity to get the help that they need, and then to just release a little bit for a short period of time. So that's something that I thank you for the question and asking, because it got my mind to thinking about what I could do to help people who are coping, who are struggling and hurting and in pain during this time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Kirk said he's back on, but I still see the screen frozen. Are you all frozen? He texted me and said,
I see
y'all see a frozen screen?
No, I see him moving.
Oh, okay. Go. All right. So Kirk, you want to answer the question that was previously asked?
Sure. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Praise the Lord. She asked, our moderator, Ms. Houston, asked about how do we find peace. And one of the things that's important.
I can't hear him on my end. Maybe y'all can.
Oh, okay. Everyone can. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on the other end. But one of the things that's important in finding peace, I believe, especially during this time, is wherever possible, on whatever platform possible, is engaging with community. Of course, the pandemic has driven us to be apart and kind of isolate ourselves. I don't think we realize how much peace we do find in community. So if I can kind of highlight real quick, our organization, Christian Student Fellowship, we have, we'll be every other Tuesday night, we'll be doing a prayer call. And you can follow us at CSF4NSU on Instagram to get the information. And then every Tuesday at noon, we're doing a Bible study. Scripture, particularly for those who are believers, is a scripture that says he will keep in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on him. And so I believe our peace comes from our spiritual alignment. So again, whatever faith that you may practice and particularly for those who may be followers of Jesus Christ, when we're in alignment and in connection with God and with other people. We're made for community and relationship. When we're connected in those ways, I believe we can find peace in no matter what we're going through. Also, you kind of have to change your expectations. I found that our frustration and discontentment is when there's a gap between our experience and our expectation. Not that you should lower your standards or anything, but given the circumstances, as Elijah mentioned, there must be an adjustment in our life and what our aim or expectation may be, so that we can find some peace with our current circumstance. And so again, I don't say that to suggest that we need to lower our standards or change our goals or what have you. But sometimes we do need to alter our expectation in some circumstances, so that we won't frustrate ourselves with having a misguided expectation or uninformed expectation of the way things should be. And so right now, things are not what they used to be. School is not the way it should be, or church is not the way it used to be. And so we have to kind of alter, what does this look like for me now? And I think when we change that and it matches our actual or real experience, then we can find some peace in that regard. Sister Houston, Mr. Houston is saying that she can't hear me. Hopefully the attendees can, but I will make the adjustment just in case others can't hear me as well.
Miss
And if
Houston, can
possible,
I jump in on what Pastor Kirk
Yes,
said?
yes, because it took me out for some reason. So I apologize.
No worries. I just would like to add to that I think trying, or at least attempting, to stay positive during this time, finding something every day to be thankful for is one of the ways that you can keep some of your peace. I mean, I know sometimes it's difficult, and I think we have to really be mindful of what we take in to our mind. Garbage in, garbage out, complaints in, complaints out, this ain't right, that ain't right, what's wrong with the world. There is plenty to complain about, but there's also plenty to be thankful for, and finding some sense of joy or happiness, or finding something good in something or someone or some situation on a daily basis. Because if all you process is what's wrong, then if that's what you process, that's what you're going to be focused on. And that has a whole lot of other negative health implications, mental health implications, physical health implications, and just it can be damaging to your whole overall well-being. So I think we need to monitor what we allow on our social media. I'm one that says, I know you got like the right to free speech, but it ends on my page, especially if it's not if it's not in keeping with what I want to see and promote on my social media. And I think that is something that everyone can, take with them in terms of an additional way to keep their peace.
Absolutely. I'm so sad that I didn't hear what Kirk said. But again, so I snuck in here with Dana. I was like, well, let me go into the other room. This is what you do when life throws you a curveball. There is other opportunity. I think Kirk said, opposition, find an opportunity. And so this is in real time, you all, opportunity when systems go out. So I'm sure Kirk Jr. Definitely encouraged us in the matter of his story. And thank you, Angela, for filling in and completing the thought while we get ourselves together. So we appreciate that. Let me go to the chat because I want to make sure if there's any questions, I will be able to accommodate you all. Dana, I got you here. Why I got you here, and I'm working on this part. You mentioned OASIS as a supporting system. Tell us something, or tell the students some things that the OASIS do to help students prepare and stay focused in school?
Well, far as for me, OASIS have helped me far as when I was hospitalized. They make sure that my professors were able to get any doctor reports that was given. I was able to receive all my homework. I was able to have someone go sit in my classes and take notes for me. Even at the end when I graduated, they were there to make sure that I made it up the stair to receive my degree to the end, all the way to the end, because before I walked down the aisle to receive my degree, I was having panic attacks. Mm-hmm. So they were there for me from the end, from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. And also, I would like to add to when they were talking about just to help out some of the students. Right now, I'm doing my thesis as well as being on dialysis 3 times a week, living by myself, and I find myself a lot would seem like the walls starting to close in on me. And for a long time before I started doing my internship here at the Garden of Hope, I finally found myself starting being free. You know, my mind starting to release, because it seemed like everything was closing up on me. And at being a student, it's very hard, as well as having health conditions as myself. And I just wanted to say that they have the counseling center at Norfolk State, and getting a one-on-one relationship with your professor, mm-hmm. as well, because no one knows what you're going through unless you talk about it. You have to talk about it. And I find myself finding people that I can share what I'm going through with, and there may be someone else out there that's going through the same thing as myself, and I just wanted to share.
Right. Those are great beginning tips for our students. Elijah, do you want to share anything to your fellow cohorts or classmates as to how during these changing moments, what opportunities, what out there that you have found to be helpful to you and helping you to adapt?
Yes, for me personally, first and foremost, I am a Christian, and like spending time in God's word has definitely helped me immensely. Like without him, I wouldn't have my mind right now, honestly. That's first. And another thing, I find peace with I like sitting in silence. There's just a peace in just silence, and that's like I feed myself with that now. Also, like what you said, Dana, about speaking to individuals about any issues that you're going through. I think I've seen a lot of people stay silent about any mental issues or any problems that they're going through, thinking that, oh, nobody understands or nobody's going to listen to me. But people don't understand what you're going through if you don't say something to them. And that's something I tend to do myself, and it's something I need to work on. But if you're going through something, you need to say something to somebody and stop being silent about it.
Absolutely. That certainly will help with our healing in these changing times. Well, it's time to wrap up. And so, Kirk, I think we talked about you sharing with us about peace when when my systems went out. And so if I'll have you share that, Angela, you have closing words, and then if our students would love to share anything to close us out, we certainly welcome them. So Kirk, talk to us, as I said, in these times of the world being so chaotic with all new things, how do we get peace and calm ourselves?
Yeah. So in addition to what I mentioned earlier, I love one what Ms. Graves mentioned about gratitude. Every morning you wake up, make a list of things that you're grateful for, even before you go to bed. I can't emphasize that enough. How that helps you just keep a positive mindset. But then also as it pertains to just finding peace in this pandemic and the chaos going on around us, is just taking care of yourself holistically. And so let's eat right, let's exercise, and then of course nurture your spirit, whatever they may look like for you. I mentioned earlier praying and meditation and some form of worship is important. Everybody has church online right now, so no excuse for not going to church or somewhere on Facebook, on YouTube. You can find somewhere to get your spiritual nourishment in some way. And so I strongly advocate for just taking care of yourself holistically. And this is a good time of reflection and renewal. And so whatever things that you wanted to work on in the past, I think is the perfect time to begin working on those things and just becoming a better you. So that as we come out of 2020, I don't think much will change at January 2021, but prayerfully things will be a little better. But most of all, the question is, will you be better? And that has to be the emphasis and focus is, how can I become better through it all? Because I do believe pain produces our purpose and potential. And so let's try to become better. Even if things don't get better, we can get better through it all.
Angela?
Thank you again for the opportunity. I have really enjoyed the conversation this evening. In addition to encouraging every student to vote, I also want to take the opportunity to encourage every student to do as Pastor KT said in terms of making yourself better, but realize that you can't change everything and you can't change everything all at once. And so just be mindful of, again, what you take into your social media, what you allow to be included in your circle, and how you start to cope. Because for those of us who are Christian, Jesus is our center and that's our sphere, but everybody is not. And so people are leaning on different things, whether it's, maybe drugs or alcohol or whatever. Be mindful of what you are doing to cope with the situation and start every day with gratitude. I totally agree. A lot of it is not going to change overnight, and that meaning even after we vote and even after the election, we still, I believe, have a long way to go before we start to see the fruit of the seeds that we are planting right now. But do your part. Figure out, a friend of my husband's used to say, get in where you fit in. Figure out where it is that you can give your gift and talent, where it is that if there is something that you are wanting to do that has been in your heart. I mean, I started a business in a pandemic. So, I mean, who does that, right? But there's something that you can do during this pandemic to either make yourself better, obtain something for yourself, and like Pastor KT said, come out better, on more equipped, more knowledgeable on the other side. But definitely make sure that you do your civic duty and your civic responsibility by voting, and make sure that you take care of yourself, because you're the only you that you have, and you are important to somebody. So make sure that you do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great words of encouragement and empowerment. Dana, you want to say goodbye to the...
Yes, and I would like to say to the student body, to the students, when in time when you feel that you can't go on, please reach up to your higher power for strength. And if you have to take what I've said and the things that I'm going through in my life as strength for you as well, please use it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much, Dana, for committing to serving us in this way. Elijah, we'll close out with you.
Yes, so I would like to say to the student body, be very mindful of your thoughts Sometimes we are very loose in our discipline with our thoughts, and our thoughts become our actions. So depending on what you're thinking about, a lot of negative actions can come about in your life. And that's really all I would like to say to you. That's a big part of this journey
Thank
right
you,
now.
Elijah. That was powerful. Thank you, Tara, for allowing us to share this stage with you, and a great job for all that you've done over the last 5 weeks to empower the students. Good night.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Before you leave, I'm going to put up a quick poll. I just want to know who you are. And I'd like to thank our panelists for being present with us, for Councilwoman Graves, as well as Mr. Graves, who's a student here, Ms. Lamb, and I'd like to thank Pastor Houston, and I would really like to applaud Mrs. Sharon Houston for doing such a wonderful job of putting these fantastic panelists together for us this evening. This session concludes our picking up the pieces here in our community segment. We hope that you enjoyed all of them, and like the rest of the segments on de-escalating tense interactions with police, racism, mental health, the coronavirus, and also the one we had last week on voting. This one will also be available on the university's YouTube channel. So for your viewing pleasure, if you have time, go back and watch some of those other sessions. They were fantastic, phenomenal. Again, thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.